Well, thank you so much. First of all, I'd like to thank you, Ma, for giving me time. And I'm here in Pune at your place. And this is Off Air with Jman. This is an independent indie music focused podcast. And I think you're the first electronic artist and obviously the mother of electronica, as you know that people say your name loud and clear. So I'm very happy and proud that I'm here, and we're going to be having a conversation. How are you?
Well, good to have you here.
Yeah.
Apart from getting stuck in the lift
Yeah.
on the way, this is the behind the scenes that no one knows about.
I think we should have shot that.
For a moment, we didn't know if it was
Yeah.
going to happen. No, but good to have you here, and
Yeah.
thank you for including me in your podcast, and also coming all the way over to Pune.
Yeah.
Little
Because
Pune.
I didn't want to miss this opportunity because you're the busy one. You're the one who's going to Thailand. You have like gigs lined up, and I'm sure that there'll be a lot of people coming up to you and asking you this question, like, how can I be like you? Is like
I'd be like, don't do it, don't do it. No, I don't know that anyone ever asked me that,
Okay.
but I think people ask me, like, how's the way? What kind of path have you led to get you to here?
Right.
They're really difficult questions to answer because in retrospect, it's so easy to say it's because I did this and it's because I did that and because I'm this. But actually, in the end, it's, I think, about your hard work. Absolutely. And what you bring of yourself to whatever you do. Right. If you can actually bring yourself to it, it doesn't matter what situation, doesn't matter what job it is, the more you can bring of you to it, I think more people can actually connect with you.
Absolutely.
So, but explaining that in terms of like a career, like what's the methodology or the algebra, what's the formula? I don't know that there is one. Right. Hard work. Absolutely. Always pays off. Yeah. All those lovely sayings that older people tell you when you're younger, and you're like,
yeah.
Nah. And then when you get older, you're like, oh my God, that was true.
Yeah. My I would like to give an example to it. My grandmom used to always tell me, like, I used to get up late to go to school. So she used to always use those proverbs to tell me that Simon Lazy getting up and looking at his bedroom clock. And I'm like, why would you say that to me? That is so mean. I just woke up and you're saying these things. And then when I messed up with something, she would say that stitch in time saves nine. I was like, can you stop? Are you done with the proverbs?
But they're all true, actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
As you get older, you really realize that those are golden nuggets.
Yeah.
They are treasures that if you were to just get the concept when you were 18, you'd save yourself a load of stress.
Yeah.
But that's the learning curve, and to really learn, I think you have to experience it.
Right. So. I saw a couple of pictures, of you in
family,
school and family, and I wanted to understand that, as a kid, I was very mischievous. I was not into studies. I was absolutely the notorious one in the class. What was your vibe like when you were like growing up? Like, I see a picture there. And you're smiling, and this
yeah,
cute,
cute
picture.
That's very kind of you. Yeah, long time ago. I'm still cute, but yeah, long time ago. I was a really clever child. I was also very naughty, and I loved to do my own thing. Right. So I think my childhood was quite complicated because I didn't seem to fit in anywhere. Right. So my challenge was that I just couldn't relate to anybody. Right. The other kids I couldn't relate to. Also grew up in England. Right. And at that time it was harder if you weren't white. Absolutely. So yeah, it was hard for me to identify with anybody, even my own family, because I didn't relate to them very much. So I felt always like I was from a spaceship somewhere, Okay. But I think that's very liberating.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't fit in, then you have to kind of carve your own path and your own identity, and it gives you a lot of freedom, to say, well, I don't look like them, and I don't think like them, and I don't. So wait a minute, I've got to figure this all out and find my own way with what feels right for me, because I don't know that I had so many heroes even that I could look up to, because I just couldn't identify with people. Right. You know.
So, growing up years, for me, my role model was maybe Michael Jackson, because I was crying outside the arena where he was performing, and my uncle couldn't get a ticket to get me inside. I was crying, I was weeping, I was, someone I wanted to watch, because we used to have those VHS tapes at that point in time. So I went to the circulating library, and instead of Michael Jackson, I got Michael Jordan. So that, so,
Halfway there.
yeah,
First name.
yeah,
That was good.
yeah. So then,
Just be glad it wasn't Michael Bolton. Who knows what your career would have been.
Yeah. So then basketball happened, but I understood that there is something. This is something that I want to pursue. This is something that I want to do. Like, who did you look up to? Whom did you look up to?
I think music as a whole became my friend, like I learned to play instruments at school. I played in an orchestra, I sung in a choir,
Wow.
I learned piano, I learned tuba, I learned trumpet, I learned the violin, I learned the flute, all little bits. I'd study for a couple of years and then get bored and be like, no, I don't want to be a violin player, now I want to play the trumpet. I get fascinated by so many things and I get bored quite easily.
Right.
So, and I found it quite hard to have the discipline to practice an instrument every day,
Right.
which is why I'm a kind of jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah. But
So,
that helps in its own way, don't you
It does, because it means you can manage everything, but you're not going to be, number one in anything, which is fine, But it means that you have a lot of tools in your bag, because, if someone whips out an instrument of any kind, I could kind of have a go on it. I'd at least, know something, and I can read and write music, and I studied music.
Wow.
So music, I think, became my family, my friend, it was my landscape, it was my relationships. If I see so much was around what was the music of the time, my defining moments of my teenage rebellion years. They were around pop music and the new electronic music that was coming in the 80s and in the 90s. And I grew up in the UK.
Right.
So the kind of accessibility that I had, for example, I was at a Michael Jackson concert, his Bad tour.
Okay.
I went to Wembley.
What?
And I queued there 10 hours before. I was in front row.
Wow.
But the crowd of like 80,000 people pushed so hard, and we were in front row, that we had to be taken over the barriers.
Wow.
And then my friends started hyperventilating. So even if you were there and you bought the tickets and you were in front row, anything can happen,
Right.
So we missed half the concert because we were in like recovery rooms while my friend is like dealing with being pushed. And I also realized, like, those big crowds, whilst it sounds great going to a stadium and seeing your favorite artist, they're quite scary. And I realized I'm not really into really big crowds. Okay. Because it's a very powerful force. Front row in a big crowd. Ooh. Yeah.
So for me, electronic music happened when a friend gave me a cassette of Prodigy, and he said that, listen to this, and I'm like, and I was toying between a little bit of Backstreet Boys, Boyzone, and things like that.
So more pop.
Yeah. So I was like, everybody, and
and you're like, smack my bitch up.
Yeah. And I was like, what?
Whoa, I know where I'm going.
So then I couldn't relate to it, and then I wanted to understand. So because I was very curious, I wanted to understand that, what does that mean?
I'm just imagining you doing all that. Everybody. I'm sorry, that's got stuck in my head now. The juxtaposition is like, but amazing, no?
Yeah.
Groundbreaking. Like when artists come like that, like Chemical Brothers, Massive Attack, Prodigy. There have been definitive artists that have just broke the mold and reinvented a whole new genre of music. You know, like, I'm so sorry that more names don't come to mind, but let's say there's been about 20 definitive styles of music, like even Portishead, all this trip hop. Yeah. You know, they captured the imagination, you know, they brought elements of everything. Even now, if you look at electronic music, how to define it?
You don't have a specific definition to it.
Come on, because it's a mixture of everything. You've got jazzy elements, you've got fusion with ethnic elements, you've got you know, from dubstep kind of elements to side
drum and bass,
trance
yeah.
kind of elements to a poppy vocal
Right.
to how do you define that now, you know? And that's because those genres created something new, and then people took aspects of it and then brought it to what they were doing, you know? It's like yesterday I'm thinking about doing a kind of tribute series, which is mixes where I kind of give tribute to either DJs or artists
that you have been inspired.
or they're like, for example, I was listening to Black Coffee, what I would do for Black Coffee. None of his tracks, and probably not what he plays, but what my interpretation would be of the music that I love in a Black Coffee vibe, you know, what bringing myself to it, you know. And my God, what different styles when I was like, how do you even classify this track?
Right.
You know, there again, a whole new style of African music, which involves jazz or even hip hop, but it's electronic and it's so exciting right now.
Right.
You know, people are imbibing what they wish, and now people produce at home.
Right.
You don't have to go into a studio. You sit there in your bedroom and you create, and the tools are there, everything's available. And anyway, you're only limited by your imagination.
Absolutely.
And your inspiration.
Right.
You know?
So coming to this, where, you know, I wanted to understand, like, the first ever time you entered a studio and you were like, oh, that's a synthesizer. Oh, those are speakers. Oh, I'm going to get to mix. And, you know, obviously, because you were raised there in England. So obviously the whole dynamics was completely different than what we have here.
Yeah.
You know, the first time I ever went to a studio was Purple Haze Studio, and then I saw people dubbing, and I was like, what is this? And, you know, and I was trying to I went there because I saw Salman Khan get inside the studio. So I wanted to hey, and then I saw him so the guard was very kind enough. He let me in. I was like, उधर से देखने का और वापस जाने का. So I saw him dub something. So I was like, then I got curious. They had these big machines
and probably tapes they were dubbing over.
Yeah. So I want to know, like, what from that to right now to a computer. You know, you have seen a lot of things. I want to know bits and pieces.
Actually, I think I've seen practically every technology because when I was a kid, I used to buy everything on records.
Okay, vinyls.
Yeah, that's what they sold, only vinyls.
Right.
And then tapes came in.
Wow.
You know, I was there for the first Sony Walkman.
Oh.
That was the 80s.
Right.
So then I had always a sound system at home. We had a really nice hi-fi with a radio.
Right.
So on a Sunday in the evening, they would play on Radio 1, they would play the top 40, the charts.
Right.
And I would record that. You could record from the radio to the tape, and I'd record all the tracks or the songs that I really liked on a tape, and then that tape I'd play on my Walkman. I was already doing that when I was 12 years old.
Wow.
So I saw records, I saw tapes, then CDs, but I also went through mini discs and DAT machines. And when I first started DJing in India, I used tapes.
What?
Cassette tapes.
Really?
Yeah.
Like how?
Okay, so there were they had two tape decks with 2 tapes in.
Okay.
And they had counters on them.
All right.
And then they went to a mixer.
Okay.
So you could have all 4 channels on the mixer.
Connected to it.
Yeah, connected to it. And you could monitor what you were doing, but you had to just find your track forward.
To the point
remember, flip it over, use the timer maybe to remember, okay, that track there, write the time down. It was, you really, because it's 90-minute tape.
Yeah.
And
you have to know that
where it is on that tape.
The absolute seconds and the minutes where, you know, that
tape's going to be.
Yeah, that thing is going to break, and I'm going to probably break into something else after.
Well, just fade in, fade out.
So,
come on.
Right.
I mean, what are you? Breakdancing? I mean, my God, no. You could just fade in, fade out. There's no pitch. There's no highs, mid, lows. You just fade in, fade out.
Yeah.
But still, you had to find it. The problem was finding the track on the tape because it's 45 minutes, and you have to get. You're like, where was it? It was near the end. Okay, you know, like that was hard, but an amazing challenge because actually, if you see what you can do today,
it basically, I think, improves
those are strong
your skill.
foundations.
Foundation was Yeah.
You know, I can
Wow.
DJ with a couple of woks and some chopsticks.
I think you should do that. I think you should do that. And then everyone will be like, what is she
Well,
doing?
how does
But
she
you know,
manage that? And
Yeah.
cook you some noodles at the end.
Wow.
Yeah, but you know, I think when the foundations are strong,
Right.
like I play at many gigs and nobody knows
Right.
what technical fucking nightmare
Right.
I have in this moment.
Mm.
The CD player is uncontrollable.
Right.
It's not pitching right. The cue button's not working. I can't forward the track. I can't change the BPM.
Right.
One, I can't change the gain on the mixer because it goes every time I touch it.
Right.
One headphone's not working and I've only got one monitor and the bass bins are right there.
Ooh.
And everything's vibrating. I mean, the combinations can be lethal.
So-
It's almost like, why don't you just get a gun and assassinate me on the stage? Because that's basically what's going to happen right now. I am dying.
Right.
And not because I'm a crap DJ, but because I am technically, I'm challenged to the point of where, what can I do? But still, you manage.
Yeah.
You manage, because when the foundations, when you know this is that, and okay, maybe I can plug in this and I can do da da da.
Right.
Like one time, I'm in Vizag,
Okay.
on the beach. We've got this mixer. We have brought from Bombay the CDJs because they weren't in Vizag, and I've had to bring them with me, hire them in Bombay, get on the flight, and bring them in their cases.
Okay.
And we're talking like 15 years ago. Okay, in Vizag.
Okay.
We're on the beach.
Vishakhapatnam it is.
Yes. I plug my headphones in the mixer and the headphone jack
Comes off.
breaks inside the mixer, and not the bit that you can pull out, the tip.
The pin.
Yeah.
Oh.
Now,
So how
and
did you, like-
so now we can't preview any tracks.
Right.
Now we can't. So now, to see the beat, I have to just look on the graphic when it goes like doomph. So I have to go doomph and go back a bit till it goes to nothing, and then. So now, even without headphones,
Wow.
I'll manage, and then I'll real time mix it in.
Right.
And in those days, you didn't have a BPM on those fucking
Absolutely.
players. Come
Absolutely.
on, all these things are now. But if you rely on those things, those tools, I think when anything goes wrong, you're like, I can't do anything.
Right.
You know, but at least.
But I think that panic mode, creates a window of opportunity.
Absolutely. That's where the magic can happen, because you're not in your comfort zone.
Absolutely.
And not being in your comfort zone is a big risk to take at every gig. But the more you can do it, I think the more reality can happen.
Right.
It's true and it's more honest.
Yeah.
Like, I don't go prepared to a gig.
Right.
I like to go there, preview 10 tracks while I'm doing effects on a track that I've just played, and preview 10 and find one that in the moment I'm like, that's the track.
Yeah.
If you ask me why, I have no idea. It's just that feels like the track, and I have to trust that, because that intuition has got me to here.
Yeah.
So I can never be like, no, but I was going to play this track next. No.
Right.
I have to go with that, because
Flow.
that's me.
Right.
Like, whenever I've had to play a set that I've had to prepare. So, for example, I only ever do that when I'm doing, for example, Sunburn.
Right.
I performed with Premic, Jolly, Prematron, and he was playing live synths and live electric guitar, and Anushka Manchanda, she was singing live. Now, we had to take studio time. We had to prepare everything, because I had to be in the right key, I had to be at the right BPM, and they had to know what tracks were coming so that the keys were right and everything was prepared. Okay. Absolute nightmare for me on the stage, because I don't roll like that. I felt so out of my comfort zone, because I was like, I can do maybe a quick effect right now, but I can't just go with the flow. Like right now for the audience, I would possibly play a different track to what I would, you know, I feel more comfortable doing that. Right. I don't feel comfortable just playing what we've created to play.
You have something in your mind. You just go blank, and then you just.
I go in that moment, because that's where the magic is, because that's where I'm comfortable.
And I really want to say this to you, because I've seen you play a lot of times. You make us wait for the drop. You don't give it. You don't give it that easy. It has to be like, you looking at us, you're looking at everyone's like, yeah. And you're like...
But you got to tweak it.
It's not gonna come
No.
easy, you know. It's not gonna come easy, and then it's like when everyone's least expecting it, and that's when it drops.
No, I like these kind of more like they catch you. You think the drop's gonna come in, and then
and
half
everyone's
of it,
all
you're
hyped
like,
up.
You thought, but wait.
Well, is that a signature of sorts, or is this like?
I think it's just about being playful, isn't it?
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
I think it's about, and when I'm actually at a gig,
right.
if the connection and the vibration and the resonance and the whole story is in a flow of everyone's there in the moment, it's an incredible experience. And the amount of energy that I receive from the whole totality, like the people, the place, the music, the sound, my own part in it. I don't know. I go somewhere else. I'm not conscious anymore.
Yeah.
Like, you do not know. There are some situations where I'm absolutely fucked. Like, I'm sick. I've got 102 fever. I've just taken 3 tablets, like 3 paracetamol. I've just crawled out with fever. I'm crying in the bed, and I've got a gig in 4 hours. And I've got to go there. But when I get there, no matter how shitty I feel, when I'm on that stage and the music starts and this connection, this ebb and flow, this exchange of energies from it's not just the people, it's the place, it's the, you know, it's also everything. It's that moment in time and space, you know, and it has a million. It's unlimited. It's full of potential if all the things just click into place. And in that
everything
moment,
is perfect.
I'm not in my body. I'm not in my problems. I'm not in my mind. I'm in another zone. Like the only time I feel like I'm in my mind is when I just check what time it is. Because sometimes I'm completely lost, and suddenly I'm like, oh my God, there's only half an hour left, and I wanted to progress somewhere else, and now I've got to, you know. So I'm maybe driven by when the ending is. In that moment, I go in my mind, but the rest of it, I don't know where I am. But I'm not there.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. It's something.
It's like a meditation.
Yeah. It's something my sir actually told me, that you know, how much ever you learn, how much ever you practice, there's one point where your soul takes over.
Absolutely.
And that's where the magic happens.
You can say that for an athlete, for anything you do. You can practice. People practice their whole lives to achieve gold level. But in that moment, it is the moment. It's that moment, and it's if this magic, you know, and it's possible for everybody. It's unlimited what can happen. Right. Look how even for athletes they keep breaking records. You know, if you look at the time difference in some of those records from 50 years ago, because they had a goal, and in that moment with everything together, maybe you break that record, you know?
Yeah. So more record-breaking conversations in a bit. We're going to be taking a break and coming back. This is Off Air with Jman. I'm with MA FAIZA. This is an independent music-focused podcast. So stay tuned. We're going to be back after a break. Alright, this is Off Air with Jman, and मेरे साथ आज है MA FAIZA. We are back after this break. Well, this is Off Air with Jman is an independent music focused podcast, and I'm here. I'm chilling with you at your place, and it's an amazing vibe. That, you know, this house has got a vibe, and there is this picture. You know, it's just there, and I saw this picture, and I was like, I was thinking it was like somebody else. Then I went a little closer to just understand that it was you. Wow, and it is shot here.
Shot here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Could you tell me something more about that picture?
It was for a concept to describe the many different facets. Right. So 6 sides, they decided 6 sides could reflect who I am.
Wow.
And that was more the kind of ancient, powerful, wise elder.
Right.
You know, sitting like a tribal leader, yeah, of a kind.
A chieftain.
A chieftain, yeah. No squaw. Yeah. And it was shot here with an amazing camera. We were blessed to have, you know, a Hasselblad camera, and what came out with an amazing story.
Right.
Great storytelling.
Right.
So it's one of my favorite pictures. I mean, it's a picture that, to have that picture of yourself is a
It's
gift for your
absolutely.
whole life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I want to ask you this, like, when people identify themselves, right? When was that point in life where you understood that, I'm not going to be the normal person and my sexual orientation is completely different? And how did you come to terms with it, number one? And how did you identify that?
So I grew up in the UK, and I always felt like a black sheep of the family.
Right.
I couldn't really identify with the people around me, including my family or even my environment.
Right.
I felt like I had different thoughts and expressed myself differently.
Okay.
So for me, in the time I was growing up, it was in the 1980s, and sexuality became quite a topic
Right.
that was starting to be discussed in the UK.
Okay.
Yeah,
At
people were
a large
talking about
extent.
sexuality, yeah,
Right.
homosexuality.
Right.
The laws were being reviewed. People were expressing themselves that they wanted to have these laws changed.
Right.
And I could see there was at least a discussion about it. I didn't even know that there were any other options, you
Right.
know. And so I identified myself really as somebody who was a lesbian. You
Right.
know, I know that I love women, my sexuality. I find myself attracted to women.
Right.
Expressing that to my parents was quite challenging.
Right.
I told them when I was 17, and they weren't very happy
Happy
that I
about it.
told them even.
Wow.
They were like, why did you
It
need to
would have
tell
been
us?
really taken a lot of time for you to like come and
And tell them.
tell them.
Well, no, really. I just was like, my whole life, I've always just wanted to be real.
Okay.
So I told my parents because I don't want them to love a version of me. I want them to love me.
Me.
Because loving a version of me means I'll always have to pretend and be an actor in my own movie.
Wow.
So I already knew very early on that I want to make my own decisions, and regardless of what they think,
Right.
or regardless of their agreement or consent, I didn't need. But what I needed to be was honest, because I've always been honest. Because I think if you start, for me, if I start lying to anybody, I'm lying to myself first.
Right.
And I don't want to be that person. And I want to be loved for truly what I am, and not the version that people, what they think I am.
Right.
By anybody.
Right.
I'd rather just reveal it all, love me, hate me. Fine.
Yeah.
But hide and then wear masks your whole life, that's
Right.
not my game.
Wow.
No.
Well,
So I told them,
okay.
regardless of an outcome, I didn't think they were going to be impressed.
Right.
I knew it was going to be a problem,
Right.
but there was just no way I was going to hide that.
Okay. Well, I mean, just going and telling your parents at that point in time would have been really tough on you.
Yeah, no, it definitely was tough. The consequences were tough.
Right.
Telling them wasn't so tough. I just told them. You know, I said to them, I told them I smoked. I told them 3 things in one shot. I was like, look, I have to talk to you and I have to tell you some things. So I chose an appropriate moment and I sat down with them and I said, okay, I smoke, I've had sex with a man, and I think I'm a lesbian. I think they were like,
Okay.
that's a whole load of information in one shot, you know. But yeah, they weren't impressed at all. But it definitely interfered with my life. But and then I needed to go through that. I had to own. I think you have to own who you are.
Right.
If you care what someone else thinks about you, then that means you're not truly being
Being yourself. Yeah.
Because if you don't accept it, how is anyone
anyone's
else
going to accept?
If you don't love
absolutely.
yourself,
Yeah.
how will anyone else love you?
Yeah.
You know? And that first loving yourself has to be owning who you are, you know?
Wow.
Like I always wanted when I was a kid to be someone else. I wanted to be the pretty girl, or I wanted to be even one of the boys. I didn't want to be me because I was just like, I don't get me and no one gets me and I don't fit in anywhere, even physically, even on any level. I just found it really hard to relate to anybody.
Right.
So then what do you do with that? You've got to love you.
As life progressed, some beautiful things happened.
Yeah, life happens.
Life
good
happens,
and bad, and the challenges, and you grow.
Right.
And the more you're you,
right.
I think the more you can evolve into you. But the more you deny you or hide you, you're never going to be comfortable with you.
Absolutely.
You know, and you're running away from you your whole life to serve a purpose to society or to your family or to your work. And then you live your life wearing all these masks.
Right.
And for me, I don't see that
You
as a
don't want to
life.
obviously.
Yeah.
But something beautiful happened then. There was a girl who came up to you when you were playing, and she gave you a paper tissue, and she wrote something. It was her number, and then what happened?
Well, I'm marrying that girl. Actually, she wrote your place, your city, anywhere. She wrote that. And another funny thing is I wear contact lenses when I play because the glasses and the headphones and the sweating, not a good combination. So I actually can't read a fucking thing. So that paper, I didn't even get to read what was on the paper, but it was a beautiful moment in time, which has totally changed my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So how do you create a balance in between, the MA FAIZA to MA FAIZA?
Yeah, no, interesting question. Yeah, it's finding that balance. So spending time on my own, having moments of introspection, having as much silence as possible, trying to build some routine, be it exercise, be it sleeping and waking up early, something to just bring you
Back into alignment.
Yeah, and bring you back into what it is to be human.
Right.
You know, with daily issues and problems and solutions and challenges that we all face, you know, because there on the stage or in that world, you're so far away from being human of a kind. You're like a shaman. You're like, you know,
superhuman of sorts.
Yes, that's what you're sharing in that moment.
Right.
So coming back to being human and what it is, that's challenging, definitely. I think for everybody.
Yeah.
I don't go out much. I'm at home.
But if you have a beautiful home like this, who will want to go out?
Well, yeah, that was the point. You know? Create a wonderful nest where I can, you know.
Yeah, because I see all sort of things which has got a place in history in your life, and there is a piano there. There's your picture as a chieftain, and there are so many amazing things. I mean, it'll take. I think you should start a tour or something.
It's like the museum or it's an art installation. Yeah. But you know, the amazing thing is you can come here or even live here. And even Anuradha, it's 2 years she's here. And still occasionally she'll be like, babe, was this here before? And I'm like, yes. So you notice something. Even I notice something. I'll look for something and I'll be like, oh my God, I just found that. I've just found, you know. It's like an archive of a life lived and traveled.
Yes.
And experienced, you know. And I love to go to a place and get something. It can be a stone from a beach. It's not about purchasing. It's not about any value. It's about a memory of that place that I can touch, or I can look, or I can rekindle that moment, you know. So I've got a lot of stones from a lot of beaches. That's all I can say.
So you're a stone collector.
I'm an everything collector. That's the problem. I find everything interesting.
Okay. So is there? So there is.
If I show you my box of screws, you will be shocked because it's like a tub of screws. Because I'll go to a shop to buy screws, and I'll buy 1/4 inch. I'll buy 5/6. I'll buy everything. I'll buy the cross screws, I'll buy the straight screws, the screws that go completely in, I'll buy long screws, I'll buy outside screws. I love screws that are super big, and then I love screws that are so tiny. So I have a bit of a problem.
But I think every screw will find its own place in
There's
time.
Place for everything.
Absolutely.
And I like I'm the girl of infinite possibilities. So I like to have every option.
Right.
You know, if you go into my cutlery drawer, you will find a million spoons because I love spoons.
Yeah.
Big ones and miniature ones and a wooden spoon. I mean, there's spoons from everywhere around the world. I bought them in Africa. I got them in Thailand. I bought them in Germany. I bought in Turkey. I mean, I bought in some village somewhere where someone carved out the spoon for me.
Wow.
So that's my problem, is that I'm so I find beauty in everything, you know.
Wow. That's very rare to have.
And I treasure everything.
Yes.
People will write me a note. You know what? In this house, there are so many pictures of me and photos of me. Most of them are not from me. They're from fans or friends.
Wow.
And someone makes a picture of you. What do you do with that? You
Frame it and keep it.
And you
Yeah.
keep it, no?
Yeah.
I mean,
Then you must
someone,
have like
someone looked
20,000
at my
frames.
photo. Someone looked and created
Right.
and gifted that to me.
Right.
How many pictures of me can I have? You know, and
Yeah.
it's incredible.
Right.
So that's where you end up having a museum.
Wow. I think and you should be charging everybody who's like coming here.
No, I think that's not necessary. I make enough DJing, thank goodness. But when the trough runs dry,
Yeah.
it'll be 5 rupee tour.
Yeah.
Come and see where we'll show you the great throne in the toilet.
Right.
Brilliant, great tour. We'd have to make it like a comedy tour, you know.
I think I also want to ask you this like there's this time where you're playing this amazing gig and there's one point where everybody's like and they are mesmerized.
Yeah.
And you realize and then you realize that, oh my god, everyone's like mesmerized. Has that ever happened to you, like at that point? Obviously not just one time.
Well, no, there was a turning point. I remember playing in Israel about 20 years ago.
Wow.
And I was at a really big festival. There was maybe 15, 20,000 people.
Okay.
On my dance floor.
Wow.
And I remember sunrise was coming up. And I don't know what made me do it, but I lifted up my arm and I just pointed to the sun and I lifted up my arm. And like half the audience lifted up their arms. And it was this moment I remember in my mind of realizing that when you're on this platform, when you're on this stage, that you have a presence where people actually are surrendering themselves to you, right, in a way of not mimicking you or copying, but they join, they feel you and they want to connect with you. Right. And I realized that there's a moment there when we're all connected and how you can move the people.
Right. Wow.
I don't know that I realized that before.
Wow.
And I remember it so vividly. I was like, oh my God, people just put up their hands. People just went, and I was like, oh my God. Yeah. And that was a conscious moment of like, wow. You in this configuration of what it is to be a DJ or an artist, right, just by the configuration, I'm not talking about me, right, but in that configuration, people surrender to you. Right. People come. It's almost like worshipping at a shrine or right, worshipping in the house of the Lord, right, or, it's a temple of a kind.
Absolutely.
People are taking sacraments. You can right, look at alcohol or whatever people are imbibing as a sacrament. And people connect and people are worshipping. You're worshipping what? You're worshipping the moment. You're worshipping the community. Right. You feel united. When you're on a dance floor, A, you can disappear. Right. And B, you can connect. Correct. And on a dance floor, we're all equal.
There's nobody who's like,
You don't go and say, you're a rickshaw driver, you don't belong on a dance floor. Right. But in the real world, go and see the differences. And go and see the status of people and the different energy that people give against equality. It's not equal. Right. On a dance floor,
everyone's equal.
That's a beautiful place to be.
Yeah.
And that, for me, I see that as a temple. If you're all equal.
Right. And why is there a difference when it comes to the real world?
Yeah. It's a moment of togetherness,
Yeah.
And when a club is vibing together, when everybody's on the same page, when people have come for the same experience, wow, the energy in that place. And when you group as people, the power of a group multiplies not by 1 + 1, but by the ratio of 1 to 2 to 2 to 2 to 2. It just keeps multiplying. So a very small group can be amplified into a really great energetic experience.
Right.
It's very powerful.
Yeah, and required. Everyone needs that energy and a little bit of knowledge as well. So, when it comes to electronic music, today's date, there are a lot of DJs. When I see a DJ play, I know यार वो ऊपर बैठ के highs, mids, lows काट रहा है. I can identify that, and I'm sure that you have been seeing so many DJs, and they claim to be an artist or a DJ. I'm like, that's your skill set. That's your skill set. That's your choice. Yeah, you are. But to improve yourself, and how does one, for example, whoever is starting to become an electronic artist, how does one find that place and make a little bit of money for living? How does one do that?
I think if you start at the bare bones, it's play what you love. And it can't be an attachment to it being successful. It's first coming from you have a need to play what you love, and you want to share that music, and you want people to feel what you feel when you hear that music. And I think if it starts from there, then those foundations are strong enough to develop anywhere. You can, how you translate that. Do you give everyone, a recording and you put it up for free and they listen to it? Do you start a dead night in a club on a Tuesday night and invite people? However you translate that. But it's first doing that. I think if you come from a concept of I need to make money and it needs to be commercial, then that you will always sell your soul, and it's not about what you want. Anymore. No, it's never about that. And if it starts that way, then where's it going to go? Because actually, if you're starting from that point, you're always going to compromise your truth, because it's not about you have a truth. Rather, you have an ambition. It's not a truth. And I think the more it comes from a truth from you, the more you can drive it, navigate to get to where you want. But if you're just a leaf in the wind, blown in whatever direction, and if you
just lose yourself.
Well, there is no you. Yeah. You're anything. You're a puppet for what works at that time, or what pays you, or what's fashionable, but where's you?
It's just that fragment or that point in time where you will exist.
Yeah.
And you'll be forgotten.
Yeah, because where's you? What's your identity? Who are you? Right. Like a chef, if everyone cooked the same, you can take the same 10 ingredients and people can do amazing shit with that, and they can blow your mind. It can be, if everybody just used the same ingredients and made the same thing, life would be a very boring place. So you're limited by your imagination. Yeah. So each chef that brought themselves to it, the totality of all their experiences, if they bring that to the table, I think it's going to be something different, at least.
Absolutely different. Absolutely. Well, that's amazing that you parted so much knowledge in one conversation, and I'm very happy that I'm here and in this very moment, and I'm having this conversation with you. Thank you so much, MA FAIZA. I really love you. And it's an absolute pleasure. Until next time where we meet, I think I'll be just screaming your name loud.
And I'll be right there, and I'll hear you above all the rest, because you got a voice. I'll be like, I know that voice. There'll be a few people, and they'll be like, I recognize that voice too from the radio,
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Well, this is Off Air with Jman, and it's an independent music focused podcast. So until next time, hasta la vista,
baby.
सो पॉइजनस के गला घुटता है मेरा, अपनी हर बात को मोड़ना इरादा है तेरा। अपने खुद के तारीफों के पुल बांधने से तू कभी थकती नहीं, तेरी सगी बहन मर भी गई हो तब भी सही। क्यों है इतना घमंड जब लाइफ हो ठंड, अपने बेटे को एंग्जाइटी से निकालने का कर ले तू प्रबंध। बस अपने एजेंडा के साथ मचाती है तू गंद, अब मेरी बारी है, नहीं कर सकती है तू मेरा मुंह बंद। तेरे लिए सब कुछ मैं